periodista y publicista Julian Assange, quien ha sido perseguido de la manera más brutal por los Estados Unidos, por el Reino Unido y los cómplices, porque Julian Assange publicó la verdad de los hechos, de los crímenes de guerra en Irak, Afganistán, Siria, Yemen, Palestina. Hoy y mañana es la última oportunidad que tiene Julian Assange para conseguir la libertad, porque nosotros, las personas, vamos a luchar y estamos luchando, porque la libertad de Julian Assange es nuestra libertad y la libertad de nuestros niños y de nuestras nuevas generaciones. Hoy es la última corte y mañana para que me le den la libertad a nuestro héroe Julian Assange. Los pueblos del mundo están con Julian Assange porque nosotros queremos vivir en un mundo con transparencia y la verdad. Julian Assange ha sido una luz brillante en un túnel oscuro de crímenes, de mentiras, de decepción. Julian Assange tiene que ser liberado porque necesitamos que Julian Assange nos siga trayendo la verdad de los hechos, porque los medios de comunicación en general, los que son prepago, ellos mienten y distorsionan la verdad. Amamos y respetamos todos los medios de comunicación que son alternative media, son alternativos. Ellos nos muestran la verdad, así como Julian Assange nos ha mostrado la verdad. Necesitamos la libertad de Julian Assange. De prensa, Julian Assange debe ser liberado ahora. Y nosotros, el pueblo, necesitamos saber la verdad. ¿Qué están haciendo nuestros corruptos gobiernos? ¿Qué hacen para el mundo entero cuando utilizan a nuestros impuestos para asesinar personas inocentes, para quitar los minerales, robar los minerales en otros países? Solamente Julian Assange nos trajo la verdad de los hechos. Lo queremos libre, que ya salga de esa prisión horrible en Belmarsh para estar con su esposa, con sus dos niños, con toda su familia y con todos nosotros, y que siga haciendo su trabajo Julian Assange, trayéndonos la verdad. Queremos la libertad de Julian Assange.
Like a sufficient combination of disagreeing with some of the...
Actually, we're going to get a chance. Free Julian Assange! With Craig. faire le tour des célébrités pour aller faire des photos. C'est ce que j'aime bien. C'est ça, je te le recommande.
No extradition! No extradition!
No, I mean they couldn't I was going to see if Emmy's crowd. I'll try. All right.
Protest this morning, good to see so many of you out. This is a protest to free Julian Assange, to stop his extradition to the United States. We've got some guests here who won't have the word with you. Thanks very much for coming out this morning. I know it's been an early morning, but this is the most important press freedom case of the 21st century, and we want to ensure that the court understands that the majority of people in this country don't believe that journalists should be jailed for telling the truth. We want to send a very clear message, both to the judges and to the politicians, that we stand for freedom of speech, that Julian Assange stands for a free press, that there are only really two sorts of news: government handouts and news they don't want you to hear. And if you want to hear the news they don't want you to hear, we need journalists like Julian Assange. Very pleased this morning that the first speaker that we have is from my trade union, the National Union of Journalists, and from the International Federation of Journalists. And he's going to make it clear why journalists in this country and journalists around the globe support the demand for a free press and to bring Julian Assange out of Belmarsh. Please give a warm welcome to Tim Dawson.
Thank you very much. How fabulous to see such a crowd. How fabulous to see so many people here to tell the courts and to tell the whole country that we wish to see Julian Assange freed. I brought with me a banner this morning with the names of 40 trades unions from New Zealand to Norway, from Peru to the United States, from Indonesia to India, all of them demanding Julian Assange's freedom. And you might ask yourself, why would journalists all over the world wish to express their concern at this case in a British court brought by an American administration? And the reason is simple. The actions for which they are seeking to prosecute Julian Assange are actions that journalists undertake every day. He recognised that there had been wrongdoing. He found a confidential source. He encouraged that confidential source to share the information with him, and he published it to the world. Be under no illusions. If this prosecution is successful, vital cases will not come to light. So many famous investigative cases, the names of which we all know, thalidomide, the Panama Papers, MP's expenses, all came to light because whistleblowers shared confidential information and journalists published it. If Julian Assange goes to prison, journalists the world over will be dissuaded from doing the same. That's why our message should be clear. Free Julian Assange, support journalism, safeguard free speech. Thank you.
Fantastic to see the crowd growing so early in the morning. Thank you very much for coming out. Thank you very much for standing up for a free press and to free Julian Assange. Now the next speaker that we've got for you is a very special journalist and a very special reporter on the Assange case. He's followed this case from the beginning. His reports on the case have been some of the best journalism that you can read about the Assange case. Please give a warm welcome for Craig Murray.
Good morning, everyone. Wonderful to see you all here in the morning. I'm having an excellent morning because it's nearly 9 o'clock and nobody's arrested me yet. We are here today because one of the greatest injustices in the world continues. Because a man who brought the truth about governments, the truth about the lies of governments, the truth about the crimes of governments, who brought that truth to billions of people, is languishing in a maximum security jail where he has been now for 5 years. And that is wrong. That is wrong. If Julian is imprisoned, if this stands, if this continues, it is not just an attack on the freedom to speak. It is not just an attack on the freedom to publish. It is an attack on the freedom to know. It is an attack on the right of citizens to have knowledge of what their governments are doing in their name and with their taxes in private. It is an attack on the rights of every single person here and every single person around the globe. Now, I've been at every day of these hearings over years and years, and I tell you something, I have lost all faith in the independence of the judicial system. I just do not believe in it. Today, in that court, Lady Judge is going to sit at the head of the court, who is the sister of the man who arranged an £800,000 loan for Boris Johnson and then became chairman of the BBC. Because that is how the British establishment works. It is corrupt to its core. And I'm not here expecting justice from an unjust establishment, but I am here in the hope that we can scare the establishment, scared of the power and the voice of its people, into being forced to give justice, because that is the only path to justice in this country. public opinion has slowly changed. It's been like turning an oil tanker, but over years and years of effort and campaigning, we have now reached a stage where most people understand the issues at stake here, where the lies and flim-flam being put out by the media has been washed away, and where, thankfully, nearly all major publications now oppose the extradition of Julian Assange, where the publications that worked with him initially have come round to saying he should not be extradited, where the journalists of the world are standing up for Julian. We have now got public opinion and public pressure on our side. I don't think this will end today or tomorrow. I think we still have a path ahead of us, but there are far more of you here today, even at this time in the morning, than were here last time we stood outside this court. There are more of us all the time. The pressure is growing. I'm going to keep campaigning. I know you will keep campaigning, and I thank you all very much. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Craig. Now, many of you will be aware that this is not just a campaign in this country, that Julian Assange has support right across the globe. And we're going to bring you some speakers now who've made an enormous effort to be here at this vital juncture in the Assange case. I'm very pleased to welcome from the United States, Chip Gibbons. He's organizer for the Organising to Protect Dissent campaign. He's also here reporting for Jacobin magazine. Please give him a warm welcome from across the Atlantic.
Thank you very much. I'm with Defending Rights in Dissent, and I'm covering the trial today for Jacobin. And I was at the court-martial of Chelsea Manning, where I joined a number of people, I don't know how many years ago it was, where we took Obama's Nobel Prize and laid it on the gates of Fort Meade, saying Obama should give his Nobel Prize to Chelsea Manning, who has done more for peace than he had. This is the most important. The reason why I am still here 14 years later isn't just because the US and the UK governments will not stop persecuting WikiLeaks. It's because this is the most important press freedom trial of the 21st century, not just for my country, where the stake of the First Amendment is on the line, but for the world. Julian Assange is not an American. WikiLeaks is not an American publication, but the US government says they can come and find you anywhere in the world and put you on trial for exposing their war crimes. If that precedent is set, it will be the death of journalism in the US, it will be the death of journalism the world over, and it will be the death of all of our rights to say no to war and militarism. We have to remember that when the collateral murder video came out, when the Iraq and Afghan war logs were released, many people were disturbed by how the corporate media had cheerleaded on the Iraq and Afghanistan wars. And WikiLeaks was a breath of fresh air, reminding us what critical journalism that spoke truth to power was. Here we are 14 years later, and the media is once again cheering on more wars, a genocide in Gaza, bombing in Yemen, maybe another Iraq war, who knows? From the very beginning, the US government knew that you can destroy journalism by destroying the sources. The imprisonment of Chelsea Manning, the attacks on Edward Snowden and Daniel Hale have always been part of a backdoor war on journalism. Now they are going through the front door and trying to lock away the journalist himself, and we cannot allow that to happen. Thank you very much.
Now, one of the countries in Europe that has given enormous support to Julian Assange is Germany, and one of the people that's been leading that campaign is the parliamentarian Angus Hunkel. I'm very pleased that he's here to speak to you today.
So So, good morning, everybody. My name is André Junko. I'm member of the German Parliament and of the Parliamentary Assembly of Council of Europe. And that assembly is the assembly who elects the judges in the Court of the Human Rights in Strasbourg. And I have to say that 3 times in 2020, in 21, and some weeks ago, the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe called with huge majority for the immediate release of Julian Assange because of what it means for press freedom, and that is, I think, a very good sign. You know that this could be the last hearing today, and if the extradition will be given free, then there could be an intervention by the court, by the European Court for Human Rights in Strasbourg. It's a so-called Rule 39, it's an interim measure, and I really expect, if this is the case, I really expect the British authorities to respect the Strasbourg court, because this is binding, this is international law, and I don't want Britain to breach international law. So, you know the Rwanda case here, it was a big issue in Britain, and the court did an interim measure, and the British authorities, the British government, in the end respected, but made a lot of noise about Strasbourg, but I think it's important to have this, and I'm quite sure if the case of Julian Assange will be given to Strasbourg, to the European Court on Human Rights, then I think the chances are very, very good for Julian to be released. But we don't want to have punishment through process. Julian has to be released immediately and tomorrow, and that is why I'm here. That is why I'm supporting all your struggle, and that why I will observe the trial. Thank you very much.
Now, Julian Assange has support right across the society, but there's particular support for Julian Assange in the trade union movement in this country. And it doesn't just come from my union, from the National Union of Journalists. It comes from right across the trade union movement. And when I began campaigning with Julian Assange, one of the first people that we went to see, Stella Assange and I went to see, was Len McCluskey, who was then General Secretary of Unite the Union. And he is now still fighting for Julian Assange. Please give a very warm welcome to Len McCluskey, former General Secretary of Unite the Union.
Well, good morning, sisters and brothers and comrades and friends. Can I first of all say a huge thank you to all of you for being here today. My emotions range between sadness and anger. This man who's done absolutely nothing wrong has been persecuted for years and years and years. He spent over 5 years in the high security Belmarsh prison. I had the opportunity, along with Jeremy Corbyn, to visit Julian in September. And my blood boils at the idea of the establishment, both in America and of course the poodles that we have here in our own government, persecuting him. For what reason? He's not been charged with anything. He's simply told truth to power. And that's what this is all about. This is about the American establishment and indeed the global establishment making it absolutely clear that they have no intention of being accountable for their criminal actions. None whatsoever. They see themselves above any law, and anybody who attempts to expose, as Julian did, what they are doing, they are relentless in their pursuit against them. And the only thing we can do is to protest, is to raise our voice. And there are millions throughout the world who are supporting Julian's demand for freedom. That's why your presence is so very important. And you know, I have a great belief that people power can make a difference. I have a belief that when ordinary working people join hands across nations and across oceans, that anything is possible. And that's what we must believe. Keep fighting for justice and it will prevail. Thank you, comrades.
Thanks very much, Len, for all the support that you've given the campaign. And now it gives me very great pleasure to introduce an old friend of mine who I've been campaigning with for many years, and he has been an unrelenting advocate of Julian Assange. He was one of the very first MPs to take up the case of Julian Assange. He's one of the hardest working MPs for the cause of Julian Assange. He is the former leader of the Labour Party and the People's Prime Minister, Jeremy Corbyn.
Thanks, John. And can I just start by saying thank you to every single person that's here this morning. We sent a call out saying, be outside the Royal Courts of Justice this morning to show your support for Julian Assange. And I hope on this occasion the British media have turned up as well, because it's been markedly obvious how great the reporting has been all around the world of the appalling injustice that's been done to Julian and how little the British media have covered it. It's a story right on their doorsteps. But I guess for the British establishment, the whole question of Julian Assange is just a little bit embarrassing. And so I think we should also say a huge thank you to the steadfastness of all those that have organised the campaign for Julian, and in particular our love and solidarity to Stella for the work that she's put in and the obvious stress and strain that she has been under. Now, Julian is currently in Belmarsh prison, which is a maximum security prison. It is an awful place, it is awful conditions, it's not the kind of prison that should exist anywhere. I want prisons to be supportive, corrective and reformative, not punishing and destroying of people's characters and lives. And before that, he was in exile in the Ecuadorian embassy, and I think we should say thank you to that government of Ecuador that was prepared to support Julian. And then you ask yourself the question, why was it they were prepared to stick their necks out so far and support Julian? It was because he was telling the truth about what was going on around the world. He was telling the truth about the US involvement in Afghanistan and Iraq. He was also telling the truth about corporate greed and corruption around the world, stealing the resources from the poorest countries and the poorest people in the world. He was telling the truth about the corruption in the way in which our media conspires with governments and the military to hide the truth about the horrors of war. And when we held an event in solidarity with Julian in the National Press Club in Washington, we held it in exactly the same place where the film was exposed, where an order was given, a direct order was given by the US military to kill civilians on the street in Iraq during the Iraq War. If only Julian were alive in reality in front of us, alive to give the reporting rather than being stuck in that horrible cell in Belmarsh, what would he be saying? What would he be saying about the bombardment of Rafah and all the destruction of life all across the Gaza Strip? What would he be saying about the highly sophisticated weaponry that has been used and has so far taken the lives of almost 30,000 Palestinian people. We need that strength, that skill, that determination of Julian Assange to get to the truth around the world. He is a real journalist. Real journalists take risks. Real journalists go for the truth, whatever the cost. That has cost the lives of 80 journalists in Gaza already, and in many other conflicts around the world. What we need is Julian's voice to be out there. So the idea that Julian should be prosecuted under the Espionage Act in the United States, the same legislation that was used against Daniel Ellsberg and others that tried to bring truth to the US body politic, is beyond appalling. So this court today has an opportunity to ensure that Julian's case is heard, that Julian's search for justice is achieved, and that ultimately Julian is able to walk free. But it also depends on the political process and atmosphere in the United States. President Biden could end this incarceration in 2 minutes. He could withdraw the whole case against Julian Assange. If he believes in press freedom, as he says he does, if he believes in a pluralistic democracy, as he says he does, then let Julian go, let Julian tell the world the truth of the horrors and inequality that exist on this planet. So we're here today in support of Julian, we're here tomorrow in support of Julian, and I say to the court, very gently and very persuasively, whatever your decision, we ain't going away. We are supporting Julian as long as it takes. And a huge thank you to all those people all around the world that have spoken up and said so much in support of Julian. And let's be of good strength, of total determination, that we will ensure that Julian Assange is freed to tell the truth and help to bring about that decent, more equal, more sustainable, more peaceful planet. Thank you, Julian, for all you've done, and thank you for all you will do. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Jeremy, and I am absolutely certain that the next MP for Islington is the one that you've just heard. Now, as I said before, we've got support from right across the world for the case of Julian Assange, and there's been no one who's worked harder in this country, across Europe, and in her home country of Germany. Stefan Dagnan, who's an MP in the German Parliament, is here today. Very pleased to welcome her to the platform.
Thank you, John. Thank you, dear friends. It's great to see you all here. Over 12 years ago, I had the honor to visit as the first parliamentarian Julian Assange in the Ecuadorian embassy. Over 12 years ago. And over 12 years ago, Julian has been deprived of his liberty. And today, he is facing the end of this political show trial in the United Kingdom. And I think it's a shame for the justice system in the United Kingdom, how they are behaving to the rule of open justice in limiting the legal observers, the political observers, and the press observers in this court hearing today. It's a shame. And it's also a shame, and was always, all the Western countries who are lecturing us and lecturing the global South about international law, about human rights and values, all the values the Western countries have. We have seen this in the last 12 years in their behavior and the political punishment and the persecution of a journalist who has lectured us about the hypocrisy of the West in showing us the dirty war crimes of the West in Afghanistan and Iraq. And that's why we are here, because of our right for information. What are they doing in our name? Because their war crimes are not in our name. And this is why we are protesting here. And I'm saying to you, we did it in the past, we do it today, and we will do it in the future. As long as Julian is in prison, we have no freedom and no free press. Julian's freedom is our freedom. The fight for freedom, the fight for Julian Assange's freedom is the fight for freedom itself. Not the journalist who is publishing crimes, war crimes, belongs to the doc. It is the one who is ordering the war crimes, like George Bush and all the others, and Tony Blair. They are belonging to the trial. They are belonging to the prison. And that's why we are here, and we will stay here till Julian is free. Thank you.
Hello, England. I'm Martin Sonneborn from Germany. Maybe you know my grandfather. I will speak in German because it's for the German media. My name is Martin Sonneborn. I'm from the European Parliament, coming here to London. Maybe you know my grandfather, Hans, and I would like to speak in German because it's for the German media. Auch wenn Joe Biden vergessen hat, Julian Assange sitzt seit 5 Jahren in einem britischen Hochsicherheitsgefängnis und wird mit britischem Essen gefoltert. Wir haben ihn nicht vergessen, auch wir in Deutschland nicht. Free Assange!
The next speaker has done enormous amounts of work for Julian Assange's campaign. He's put early day motion after early day motion on this matter in the House of Commons. He's fought in the Commons, alongside us in the streets. It's Richard Bergen, Labour MP, Belize.
We should be able to celebrate the work and freedom of Julian Assange. We shouldn't be having to meet here to protest against his incarceration. We shouldn't be having to meet here today to think about the way he, Stella and the family have been robbed of their family life. And why is Julian Assange being robbed of his freedom? Why is Julian Assange being robbed of his family life? Why is Stella being robbed of her husband? Why are their children being robbed of their father? The reason that they've been robbed unjustly of all of these things is because Julian Assange spoke the truth to power. Julian Assange exposed war crimes. Julian Assange did his job as a journalist. Julian Assange did his job of holding the powerful to account. In our parliament, we hear very often the grand themes bandied about of freedom of the press, the rule of law, the importance of journalism, democracy, freedom of speech. Anybody who believes in these things should know that Julian Assange should be free.
Like Navalny. I mean, I have total empathy for Navalny,
of the misery inflicted by the establishment on Julian. But we also need to reflect upon why they are doing it. They want to send a chilling message to every journalist in this country and around the world.
Don't expose war crimes, because if you do, what happened to Julian Assange might happen to you. So we see around the world horror unfolding. We see what's happening in Gaza. We see what's happening in Rafah. Don't we need more Julian Assanges, not fewer Julian Assanges?
I've been there 30 years.
And don't we need journalists and whistleblowers out there reporting upon and exposing war crimes, not languishing in Belmarsh prison and certainly not being sent to the United States to face the sentence of 175 years in maximum security prison. I'll finish on this. The words of Julian when he said, if wars can be started by lies, then peace can be started by telling the truth. We're gathered here today to tell the great truth that Julian Assange is not a criminal as well as a father and a husband and a friend. Julian Assange is a journalist, a whistleblower and a hero and should be free. Free Julian Assange! Among the very many great tragedies that have attended the fact that Julian Assange has been in prison for so long is the fact that his voice isn't being heard in the world press as the conflict in Gaza rages. Because we would know much more and we would know much better about what is happening there if he were free to report here. And it's my very great pleasure now to introduce you one of the MPs who has spoken out most consistently for the freedom of Julian Assange, has spoken out most bravely on the question of defense for Palestinians. Please welcome Sarah Sultana.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Sarah Sultana.
Stella. Perdona, Stella.
We know Julian is responsible for exposing US war crimes, the crimes of empire, and abuses of state power, from torture in Guantanamo Bay to the killings of civilians in Iraq and Afghanistan, a region ravaged by what the US and the UK and its allies have done. The public, we all of us had a right to know about those appalling crimes, yet Julian has been locked in Belmarsh since 2019 and faces the rest of his life in a US prison for bringing that damning information to light. And this isn't just an attack on Julian, like so many others have said already. This is an attack on the very essence of journalism, on the free press, and what it means to hold the powerful to account. So everyone who cares about free speech should care about Julian, should care about this very important case, and should be calling for an end to this prosecution and the persecution of Julian, for the charges to be dropped and for Julian to be free. So thank you and solidarity, and let's keep fighting.
Thank you very much, Sarah Sultana. And now there is nobody, simply nobody, who has done more for this campaign, who has campaigned relentlessly to free her husband from Belmarsh jail. Please give the warmest possible welcome to Stella Assange.
Intentamos hablar con ella junto antes de los juicios. ¿Qué te parece?
Eingegeben worden, letztes Jahr im Sommer. Die Eingaben gemacht. Aber es dauert natürlich.
Be there for Julian and for us, and for you, until Julian is free. Free Julian Assange! Thank you. Thank you. We have 2 big days ahead. We don't know what to expect. But you're here because the world is watching. They have to know they can't get away with this. Julian needs his freedom, and we all need the truth. Thank you.
There really is, as there was at the beginning of the campaign, so it is still now. There is really only one decision, no extradition. Only one decision, no extradition. Only one decision, no extradition. Only one decision, no extradition.
Sí, acaba de hablar. Acaba de coger.
Who took over the editorship of WikiLeaks when Julian Assange was jailed? Kristen Huffington
No, no ha hecho
is here to speak to you now.
No, sigue estando fuera. Está aquí en la tienda roja.
Thank you so much for showing up today at this extremely
Justo en la puerta del tribunal hay un tenderete donde se está hablando. Justo ahí.
Julian Assange has
No.
been denied justice
La
for
puerta
so
del tribunal
long.
está el
It is
standing
about
este, está
time
todo el mundo hablando.
that he receives some justice. There is a glimpse of hope. And when I look out at all of you, we show that you observe and point a finger at the justice system. Do the right thing. Continue to do so. It's a pivotal moment. This is a moment of truth about the right to tell the truth. Free Julian Assange.
We'll come out after this. Cheers.
Thank you.
Sorry.
All right.
Thanks very much.
Thanks, lady.
To see so many of you here. This is the biggest demonstration we've ever had outside one of these court hearings. You couldn't come out at the time. Thank you so much. So much for being here today. Now, French President who speak to us also campaigned long and hard for Julian Assange, journalist, Chris Hedges.
Please, you're blocking the road otherwise. Sorry.
Justice will come. But it will not come from within those courts. Decision. No extradition. Understand fully the judicial pantomime that they have engaged in from the inception to crucify the most courageous, most important journalists of our generation, and they are hoping they will not be called out. They are hoping that we will not react. They are hoping that we will not speak out. It is the pressure that you exert on these mandarins of injustice that will free Julian. And I want to thank everyone for coming today, because it is this Julian home. Thank you. Now you may have seen that one of the strongest campaigns, one of the most effective campaigns, and one which has produced some of the most decisive results for Julian Assange has been the campaign in Australia, where that campaign was so powerful that it got the entire Australian government to demand that the United States stops the persecution of Julian Assange. And one of the people that's been absolutely central to that campaign has worked relentlessly in that campaign and in campaigns internationally is Julian Assange's brother, Gabriel Shipton. Please give him a warm welcome. Hi everyone, this is amazing. What an important turnout. I'd love to see everybody here tomorrow as well. This is really heartwarming and really gives us a lot. Inspires us to keep going as Julian Assange. As John just said, last week the entire Australian Parliament voted on a motion in the Australian Parliament that 2/3 of the parliamentarians voted in favour of, including the government, including all the cabinet ministers, defence ministers, and all of the crossbench. And that motion said very specifically that Julian is an award-winning Australian journalist, that Julian is being persecuted, is being held for exposing the misconduct of the US in its laws of war, and that the UK and the US should bring this to an end immediately so that Julian can be returned home to Australia. This treatment, in this case, this persecution of Julian has made the UK and the US an embarrassment on the world stage. It is their shame. And they can bring it to an end simply by letting Julian go, re-establishing themselves as human rights advocates that can be powerful around the world. So, free Julian Assange. Well, this has been a fantastic rally, and you can see from the people who've turned up to defend Julian Assange, to join you early in the morning outside Royal Courts of Justice, that it really does have enormous political support. And I think you can tell that from the cars and the traffic going past. I've never been involved in a campaign that just had so much support from passers-by, never mind about the people who come out to demonstrate. And I think you should take heart from that. And I should encourage you to stay here, to continue to protest, to come back tomorrow. And tomorrow, at the end of the court hearing, we'll be having a demonstration from here down to Downing Street to make sure that whatever happens in that court, this campaign stays fighting. I'd now like to welcome one of the people who has helped us most, who's done enormous amounts of work, and we've always been able to rely on the turnout of the Please welcome the MP for Hamilton Poplar, Assembly.
Good morning, everyone. It's good to see so many people arriving up the streets this morning, showing the strength of the feeling here. But I know it's not just in London, but it's across our country, it's across the world as well. If Julian Assange is extradited to the US, there will be far-reaching human rights implications and crux of the issue for so many. It's about whether we value and support press freedom or not. And for me, it's been long clear that the charges related to Julian Assange's publishing activities must be dropped, and the UK authorities must reject any notion of his extradition to the US. There must be an end to the suffering and torture of a person for the simple act of telling the truth. Civilians and corruption on a grand scale that have put him where he is today. And when it comes to those wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, it is clear that they were in breach of international law and resulted in large-scale death and destruction, including human rights abuses committed on a large scale by occupying troops. It's also clear that we were misled, and even now, the truth continues to be obscured and suppressed. In 2003, I was 13 years old, I was a teenager, and I marched against the Iraq war. I know how that war destroyed the lives of so many Iraqis and caused destruction to the region. But it also devastated my constituency and community in East London, and the consequences of it are still felt to this day. I think it's utterly obscene that whilst those that pursue Assange for publishing information about serious human rights violations, you've got those responsible for those crimes itself continuing to enjoy impunity. That's why I think today Julian Assange's case is so important for us all. Because really, it's about people and their power versus state power and imperialism. It's about truth versus deceit and cover-ups. And ultimately it is about seeking justice in an all too often unjust world. Solidarity.
Our next speaker is not only Julian Assange's father, but he is an absolutely first-rate campaigner. I spent last summer on tour with him with the film Ithaca, going around town after town, city after city in this country, showing that film, which was a brilliant piece of publicity about this case. It was later shown on ITV, and he's toured with that film not just in this country, but in America, in Germany, in Australia. He has been relentless in the campaign to free his son. Please welcome John Shipley.
Beautiful faces, all concerned with bringing justice to the young man. 15 years approaching, the Julian's been incarcerated in one form or another, without charge, by the way. 15 years. This scandal has engrossed the world. We take into consideration the Australian Parliament last week voted 84 members to 42 for the United States to drop the charges and bring Julian home. This is considerable courage exhibited by the Australian Parliament for three very important reasons. Resisting the extraterritorial application of the United States laws. 1. 2. In defence of freedom of speech and the capacity for each of us to speak to each other, founded on knowledge that we pass to each other, and consequently building within our communities and within our nation understanding of where we stand. Three, Julian Assange himself, a global difficulty created by the United States and the United Kingdom Crown Prosecuting Service, brought upon themselves a worldwide scandal. All of those elements, the courage of the Australian Parliament to take upon itself criticism, fundamental criticism of the United States and implied criticism of the United Kingdom's Crown Prosecuting Service. A considerable grant. We together, I hope is the wrong word actually, we together insist that the United Kingdom and its judges honour their own laws with the same fortitude, the same courage, the same uprightness as demonstrated by the Australian Parliament and the Australian people, all of whom stand 84% behind us. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, John. Our next speaker was an MP for the African National Congress in South Africa. He worked with Nelson Mandela. He's been a stalwart of the Palestine campaign, and he is standing as an MP for the British Parliament against Keir Starmer at the next election. Please welcome Andrew Feinstein.
Thank you very much. As you all know, my country, South Africa, recently took Israel to the International Court of Justice. And the highest court in the world, led by an American judge, concluded that there is a plausible risk, that there is prima facie evidence, in other words, that Israel is committing genocide in Gaza. This is something that we can all see every day with our own eyes on our screens. It's not something we needed the highest court in the world to tell us. But let us also remember what was included in South Africa's submission: the intentional targeting and killing of Palestinian journalists on the ground. Why are they doing that? Because they do not want us to know what they are doing on the ground to innocent Palestinians. Those journalists are informing the world of what is happening. This is exactly what Julian has spent his life doing.
Can you try and screw the handle? You know, there's the mic holder.
In the 23 years that I've been investigating and researching the murderous and corrupt global trade in weapons, the most effective, the most important truth teller on the global arms trade, on the warfare committed in our names with our tax pounds, has been Julian Assange. And while those who committed the war crimes have not only all gone free, but have all profiteered from their war crimes, it is Julian who speaks truth to power, who is is on trial. But it is not only Julian who is on trial. It is the British system of justice. It is the British government. It is the US government. It is our entire system of rulemaking, of imperialism, and of deep-seated corruption.
Hear, hear.
Forgive me for paraphrasing my former boss, Nelson Mandela, but the reality of our democracy, of our world, is that our freedom is incomplete without the freedom of Julian Assange.
Now, anybody who knows anything about a free press, anybody who knows anything about freedom of speech, has been part of the campaign to free Julian Assange. And Reporters Without Borders has done enormous amounts of work, often having to force themselves into the courts to be able to hear what's been happening in the hearings that have been held for Julian Assange. And because of that work, and because they're still here today doing that work, very proud to introduce to you Rebecca Pinson for Reporters Without Borders.
Thank you so much. Thank you all to everybody here for still being here. It's been a long 4 years, and even longer those who are working on one hand. I'm just saying that we would but of course, as we all know, this may in fact still require political solution. So I know, that's the evil.
I know that. Well, it's someone just keeps smiling.
I'll let you know.
Whiteboard up big time as well.
Of course, we all know what is at stake here. For my organization, our mandate is press freedom, so we're engaged because of Julian Assange's contributions to journalism. The publication by WikiLeaks in 2010 of the leaked classified documents informed extensive public interest reporting around the world. We know that exposed war crimes and human rights violations, crimes which have never been prosecuted. Only the publisher is being pursued here. And if he is sent to the US, of course he is the first publisher that will be pursued in this way. This will set an alarming precedent that could be applied to any journalist, any media organization, anyone who works with stories based on leaked classified information, which is of course a normal journalistic process. So when we say that it's the future of journalism at stake, that is what we mean. This case has been going on for far too long, as we're hearing many politicians finally starting to concede now. For 13 long years, we will already never know what stories have not been told as the result of this endless legal persecution of Julian Assange. But if this continues, if he is extradited, if he is put on trial in the US, the chilling effect will be enormous. It will impact media around the world, and it will impact all of our right to know. Because of course, this is ultimately about the public's right to information, the right to stories in the public interest. I'm going to have to hold this closer, sorry.
I'm going round to the front, so I will see you.
One thing as well is to remind the world actually where Julian Assange is today. We, after a fight with the prison, similar to our fight for court access over the years at Reporters Without Borders, we were finally able to visit Julian in prison 4 times between August and January.
I don't know in advance what I'm doing.
A lot of people, especially in the US, have lost sight of where he even is, but he is in a high security prison
You in the office later?
in the UK, in London, some miles from where we are now.
surely, even if the U.S. government cannot back down on the larger principles of this case, surely at some point it has to be conceded that enough is enough. The leaker, Chelsea Manning, served 7 years in prison. President Obama commuted her sentence, stated that it was disproportionate. So why would the publisher...
I've got to go. I've got to go.
...increase up to 175 years simply for publishing information misleading? It is absurd. But let's remember Julian today. We know his state of mental health. The last time I saw him, I was quite concerned about his state of physical health as well. He had broken her ribs and coughing so much. These conditions are grim. He should not be in prison in the UK, in the US, in Australia, anywhere. So let's make that very clear. Anything that comes out of the court process or the commission should involve no further time in prison for Julian Assange in any country. In court and accredited for the first time as NGO observers, and I very much hope that that will be respected today, because we've had quite a long history of access problems here. But I do want to note that other organizations have had problems this time, and I know many journalists around the world have been very disappointed not to be able to access remote proceedings as in the past. We think that transparency is needed in this case. Journalists should be allowed to do their jobs around the world, and it's particularly concerning for the US and Australian public to not be as informed as they otherwise would have been if there had been full access granted to journalists. So we just urge again the court to consider other solutions to allow journalists and NGO observers to do their jobs. This hearing is overwhelmingly in the public interest, and we all must be allowed to bear witness and report on what we see. So thank you so much. I'm the secretary, and look forward to see some form of justice.
Thanks very much, Rebecca Vincent. As I said, there's no organisation virtually on the planet that cares about or campaigns about freedom of press and freedom of expression that doesn't support Julian Assange. So I'm now very proud to be able to welcome to the stage Sabrina Tucci from PEN International.
Proud of these days.
We just get you printed. Do you want to maybe put through the box there? Yeah, so then. I'm just say, trial, can you talk to me about what you feel is
Julian's case is about the persecution of a journalist, of a political prisoner in the heart of the West, of a man who's been in prison for almost 5 years for publishing evidence of war crimes. And if he's extradited, he may never be free, and he may not survive it. So this is a crucial moment. He could be sent to the United States within a matter of days if he loses this trial.
Sends a chilling message to journalists and publishers worldwide, threatening the very foundation.
I'm encouraged that the world is watching. There are so many people here today. It seems like the world is finally waking up to the implications for the press. Understands that
the UK
political prisoners die in prison. That's what happened. We've seen it just last week. What happened to Navalny and what happened to Navalny could happen to Julian. That should never happen.
Almost like the education of government's vision, despite serious risks to himself, undermines his commitment.
It's impossible to really know
PEN International understand and primarily calling the UK authority to help Assange's extradition, recognizing the grave implications it holds for press freedom globally. We echo the call of the UN Special Rapporteur on Torture for a thorough review of Assange's extradition order, in which both the US and UK authorities to cease the relentless persecution.
It's imperative that Assange is promptly released from Belmarsh prison and allowed to rejoin his family. Upon his release, his freedom of movement must be fully honored. The right to publish and the right to be informed are inseparable pillars of democracy. As a movement, PEN International and its centers strongly defend the unrestricted dissemination of leaked information by media organizations, while also emphasizing the need for responsible journalists to safeguard the safety of sources. In these difficult times, the battle for press freedom rages unabated. It is imperative that we uphold the principle of a free press and protect those who courageously pursue truth in the face of adversity. We call on the authorities to stop Assange extradition.
Thank you very much indeed. Now our next speaker probably knows more about the legality of the case.
Why do you think he has been public
than
enemy
anyone
one
else?
of these states for so long?
She's one of the most articulate advocates of Julian Assange in the media. Please welcome the lawyer, Jennifer Robinson.
He's been the greatest contributor to knowledge around state criminality.
What this case is saying is that any journalist in the world
Do you think you'll ever see him again if he's actually extradited?
I don't think I will.
the publishing information that shows us
Stella, do you want to report now?
Yeah.
And you see that it's children journalists all the way. It is diminishing the moral authority of Australia and the United States to raise issues of press freedom with Russia, China, and countries like this. So it's important that we continue to make this point. This is about journalism, it is about the protection of free speech, and Julian Assange's case is not just about journalism, but about all journalists and editors in this country and around the world. So thank you for being here to support him. We appreciate you all. Thank you.
The snowman, with the snowman.
Okay, you're going today.
Nice.
Well, as somebody is just texting me, we're coming towards the end of the round now, but
they're just
somebody's just shouting at me down here to mention John Page. And so,
Where's it from?
Spain.
absolutely right that we should. John was not only one of the best journalists of his age,
I think they're
he
leaving
was a relentless campaigner for Julian Assange, a good friend of mine, and it's entirely right that today we should remember his contribution to the campaign. So that brings us to the end of this part of the day's rally. Obviously Stella and Kristen and others are going to go into the court now. Please give them a huge round of applause so that they know that they carry with them our hopes that the judges will come to the right solution. And just in case the judges don't know what the right solution is, let's tell them. There's only one solution. There's only one decision. Only one decision. Only one decision. Only one decision. Okay, please do stay. There will be statements after the court is finished at lunchtime. There will be statements about what's been going on and reports to you during the day. There will be other speakers turning up to support the campaign. So please do stay around, come back tomorrow, stay with us for the march. We're going into court now. Please give them a huge round of applause.
Good luck! Good luck!
Stop the zebra crossing.
There's only one decision.
them space.
Give them space. Give them space.
If you want, you can turn just him, and if not, we can just go.
Pull back a bit, pull back. Pull back a bit.
Go.
Yeah. There is no possibility of a fair trial if Julian is extradited to the United States. He should never be extradited to the United States. He would never be safe. The United States plotted to murder my husband. He is being accused of journalism. This case is an admission by the United States that they now criminalize investigative journalism. It's an attack on all journalists all over the world. It's an attack on the truth, and it's an attack on the public's right to know. Julian is a political prisoner, and his life is at risk. What happened to Navalny can happen to Julian. He has to be released. This farce has to end. Thank you.
Thank you. Free Julian Assange! 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 Now! Free Julian Assange!
Stand up.
Now!
Stand up.
Free Julian Assange! Now! Free Julian Assange! Free Julian Assange! Now! 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 Free Julian
Hey, sorry, can we come in?
It's
It's Julian's dad. Yeah, dad and brother. Dad and brother.
Hey, dad and brother has to come in.
Be careful.
Because I'm like them.
Be careful. Oh, be careful.
All the best, Jim. Give him our love. Thanks, Gabriel. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you. Thank you.
Where is Julian?
Yeah.
Where is Julian?
freedom. Free press, free Assange, free press. Assange freedom, press freedom. Assange freedom, press freedom. Free Assange, free press. 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 Assange freedom, press freedom. Assange freedom, press freedom. Assange freedom, press freedom. Assange freedom, press freedom. Be careful. Be careful.
Let me speak.
Yes, 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 yes. Good job, God. Take care of your neighbor. Free Assange.
Queridos amigos, queridas amigas, muchísimas gracias. Buenos días a todos. En primer lugar, gracias por acudir a otra reunión del Comité Ejecutivo Nacional. Veo alguna cara, sobre todo por esta parte, que están los presidentes provinciales del Partido Popular de Galicia, pues con los efectos de alguna celebración reciente. Eso es, sin duda, muy buena señal. Y quiero agradecer e insistir vuestro trabajo. Todo el Partido Popular de España ha apoyado al Partido Popular de Galicia para obtener estos resultados. Hemos sido disciplinados con lo que la dirección de campaña del Partido Popular en Galicia nos ha encomendado y, por tanto, yo os agradezco en nombre del partido vuestro trabajo y, sobre todo, en nombre de nuestro país, en nombre de España, la tranquilidad con la que, a partir de hace unos días, empezó a vivir otra vez España, dado los resultados de las elecciones autonómicas en una tierra antigua, en una tierra con carácter propio como es la Comunidad Autónoma Gallega. En primer lugar, lógicamente, le corresponde al partido darle las gracias al gran protagonista de los últimos meses en la política española, que es Alfonso Rueda, el presidente electo de la Xunta de Galicia, por un enorme respaldo electoral en las elecciones autonómicas del pasado domingo. Es una gran victoria que no tiene más comentarios y más causas que lo más difícil, que es el tesón, que es el trabajo, la dedicación, la valentía y también la determinación y las ganas de ganar. Y de ganar no de cualquier forma, sino de ganar con una mayoría incontestable. Rueda es uno de los políticos más completos que yo conozco y lo es porque tiene una enorme y dilatada experiencia y formación en el ámbito de los recursos públicos, de los intereses generales. Ha sido prácticamente durante más de 20 años responsable en distintas unidades de la Administración gallega, en el Gobierno de Galicia, y previamente también pues, ha sido el que ha orientado la política municipal allá en los ayuntamientos a los que sirvió como funcionario de carrera del Cuerpo Nacional de Interventores y Secretarios. Es, además, un servidor leal del partido, lo conoce bien, lo conoce desde su juventud, lo conoce desde sus primeros años de dedicación política en Nuevas Generaciones de Galicia y también es un gran líder. Y un líder es aquel que acredita que es capaz de ir amoldándose al momento oportuno de su biografía política, que es capaz de dar el mejor resultado en el estadio político que le ha sido encomendado en cada momento y que es capaz de no fallar nunca y de conseguir los resultados siempre. Yo creo que todo el Partido Popular de España está feliz. Muchos ciudadanos, no solamente gallegos, están felices con el resultado electoral en la Comunidad Autónoma Gallega y, por tanto, Alfonso, te mereces esta victoria. Todos los compañeros del Partido Popular, está aquí el presidente del partido en Coruña, la presidenta del partido en Lugo, todos los presidentes del Partido Popular en Galicia se merecen el aplauso unánime, ya no digo del Partido Popular, sino de los españoles. Muchísimas gracias por vuestro resultado electoral. Unas horas después de un nuevo éxito mayúsculo del Partido Popular de Galicia, conviene hacer una serie de consideraciones en el Comité Ejecutivo de nuestro partido. Yo haré dos, una sobre el resultado y otra sobre el escenario político que se abre a partir de este resultado en España. Sobre el resultado, que es la primera reflexión, es bien sencillo. Galicia eligió, y como todos los pueblos democráticos eligen siempre a través del modelo infalible que es el voto. El voto en urna, el voto libre, el voto reflexionado, el voto como expresión de confianza del ciudadano en una formación política. Teníamos enfrente una amalgama, lamentablemente, digo, una amalgama llena de mentiras, de manipulación, de confrontación y, lo que es más grave, de interés de dividir a gallegos del resto de los españoles. Y Galicia eligió lo contrario, eligió unión, eligió honestidad, moderación y estabilidad. Es todo un mensaje para la política española actual. En estas semanas hemos visto una vez más las los peores artes de la maquinaria del sanchismo. Han apoyado al nacionalismo gallego con el único interés de que el Partido Popular de Galicia no pudiese gobernar. Nunca lo habíamos visto en el Partido Socialista Obrero Español, en sus años de historia. Nunca hemos visto que un partido está dispuesto a inmolarse con tal de que no gobierne el partido que saque mejores resultados en las elecciones y, por lo tanto, que no gobierne el Partido Popular de Galicia. Pues bien, además de ello, hemos visto cómo la maquinaria del sanchismo no solamente ha tenido interés porque el soberanismo gobernase en Galicia, sino además, sorprendentemente, de atacar y de atacarme como presidente nacional del partido, pero también, me imagino, como expresidente de Galicia. Pues bien, si querían que las elecciones gallegas fuesen un plebiscito sobre mi liderazgo, ahí tienen el resultado del plebiscito, y si querían que Galicia validase su modelo, ahí tienen el fracaso rotundo del modelo sanchista. Este es el resultado y esta es la primera reflexión. Pues bien, yo prefiero entender el resultado como una victoria de Galicia y, en consecuencia, como una victoria de España. Es una demostración de que hay una manera mejor de hacer política y que la tenemos al alcance de la mano. Es decir, que existe, que es posible y que ese es el camino trazado que hemos de seguir. España no está condenada a ser gobernada por aquellos partidos que no creen en ella. Y, por supuesto, tampoco España está condenada a ser gobernada por un partido cuyo único objetivo es mantenerse en el poder. La izquierda, que ha renunciado a convencer a los españoles de que está bien lo que hace, ahora la izquierda fía su suerte a decir que el Partido Popular somos como ellos. Por eso, su argumento estrella en esta campaña ha sido que somos capaces de pensar lo que ellos hacen. Mienten sobre lo que decimos, mienten sobre lo que hacemos y hasta sobre lo que supuestamente pensamos. Necesitan interpretar las voluntades ajenas porque se avergüenzan de sus propios hechos. La gran esperanza del independentismo, es decir, el señor Sánchez, pretende convencer a los españoles que yo le voy a acompañar en su deriva. Y lo digo con toda claridad, me repugna que el único principio del presidente del Gobierno sea mantenerse en el poder y que haga lo que sea para preservarlo. Yo nunca, nunca seré como el señor Sánchez y a los hechos me remito. Y me alegro de que esta forma de hacer política haya sido derrotada con contundencia en mi tierra. Me alegro profundamente de que la verdad prevalezca sobre la mentira. Como quizás nadie en el Gobierno va a sacar ninguna conclusión ni ningún aprendizaje de esto, vale la pena repasar algún dato. Entre los dos partidos del Gobierno han sacado 9 de 75 diputados del Parlamento Autonómico y no han llegado entre los dos partidos del Gobierno al 16% del voto. El PSOE abandonó su marca, abandonó su candidato y abandonó todos sus principios para aspirar a ser la palanca de un nuevo frente soberanista en nuestro país. Y el resultado ha sido el peor de la historia del Partido Socialista de Galicia, llevando a la irrelevancia política absoluta al Partido Socialista en la Comunidad Gallega. Sánchez se ha acorralado a sí mismo. Buscando levantar muros, ha encerrado al Partido Socialista y a sus socios dentro de su muro. Y tiene las de perder, como ha ocurrido en Galicia. ¿Por qué? Porque los gallegos han sido los primeros españoles que han votado y han castigado la división y han premiado la unión. Los españoles que primero han votado han castigado también la mentira y han valorado la verdad. Y los españoles primeros que han votado han castigado a Sánchez y han premiado al Partido Popular. Desde que hemos renovado el Partido Popular, desde que este equipo está trabajando en la dirección nacional, hemos ganado unas elecciones generales, hemos subido 3 millones de votos, 48 escaños en el Congreso y mayoría absoluta en el Senado. Hemos ganado 11 de las 16 elecciones autonómicas. Hoy el PP tiene 7 gobiernos más que tenía cuando llegué a la presidencia del partido y hoy el Partido Socialista tiene 7 gobiernos menos desde que el señor Sánchez es presidente del Gobierno. Yo estoy muy orgulloso de los 13 presidentes autonómicos del partido y del vicepresidente en Canarias y estoy también muy orgulloso de los 4 compañeros que son presidentes de comunidades autónomas con mayoría absoluta. El PSOE tiene 1, pero no sé si a ese 1 Sánchez lo considera su compañero. La táctica del Partido Socialista Obrero Español ha sido profundamente errada, pero la estrategia era infinitamente irresponsable. La táctica ha sido alimentar un partido independentista para intentar que no gobierne la fuerza que iba a ser más votada, el Partido Popular. Pero la estrategia va directamente en contra de los intereses de nuestro país. Hacer crecer la idea de que en la España de hoy hay que ser independentista para conseguir algo del Gobierno de Sánchez es una irresponsabilidad mayúscula que la historia juzgará. Al menos hay una mayoría de ciudadanos que son mucho más responsables que el mal gobierno que nos toca padecer a los españoles. Si el PSOE renunció a ser un partido de mayorías y decide ser solo la muleta de los independentistas, es su problema. Si el PSOE renuncia a ser un partido nacional y elige ser subalterno de todos aquellos que quieren que a nuestro país le vaya mal, es su problema. Todos los españoles seguirán contando con un partido amplio, con un partido de Estado y con vocación, con su única vocación, que es aglutinar a la mayoría de los españoles. Todos los españoles pueden contar con el Partido Popular porque es el partido hoy por hoy de España. Y el camino para la victoria también lo ha vuelto a enseñar Galicia, tierra donde confluyen, por cierto, los caminos. Por tanto, cuando uno quiera buscar el camino, pues que se dirija al lugar donde confluyen todos. Si la alternativa se concentra en el Partido Popular, ganamos. Si los votos se concentran en una candidatura amplia, en la que cabe la inmensa mayoría de ciudadanos, somos capaces de parar al independentismo y a cualquier populismo. Si los españoles se unen en torno a un proyecto para nuestro país, se acaba el proyecto de Sánchez y el proyecto de sus socios. Lo contrario puede ser muy útil a los intereses de algunos políticos, pero no es nada útil a los intereses de nuestro país. Y quien en estos momentos siga comprando el relato del Gobierno y criticándome más a mí que a Sánchez, seguirá siendo muy útil a los intereses de Sánchez, pero nada útil a los intereses de los españoles. Si el Gobierno tiene que reflexionar, lo que nos toca a nosotros es seguir trabajando consciente de la responsabilidad que tenemos, y es que los presidentes del Partido Popular gobiernan para más del 70% de la población española. El mensaje de las urnas ha sido doble. Ha confirmado que el Gobierno ha perdido la mayoría social y ha confirmado que el Partido Popular es la única alternativa al desgobierno. Y quiero concluir apelando precisamente a esto. Esta victoria electoral es mucho más que una victoria. Es la mayor prueba de confianza que nos han dado los españoles en el momento más delicado de nuestra democracia. Hoy el Partido Popular no es solo la alternativa al Gobierno, la única alternativa al Gobierno, es la única alternativa para la España constitucional. Lo que está en juego en España no es la mera alternancia de un gobierno u otro gobierno, sino la continuidad del proyecto constitucional y del proyecto común de la España de iguales. Es un orgullo presidir un partido que atesora hoy casi en solitario la llama y el espíritu de la Constitución española. Debemos seguir demostrando allí donde gobernamos que somos una herramienta al servicio de los españoles. Y como consecuencia de que el Partido Popular es el garante que en nuestro país siga siendo lo que es y lo que ha sido, un país para todos, donde caben todos, con sus acentos, con sus paisajes, con su diversidad, pero en la unidad. Hoy vuelvo a decir con más convicción que nunca que los españoles esperan mucho más del Partido Popular que del Gobierno, y estoy orgulloso, además, de que así sea. Este es el mensaje que nos han dado los ciudadanos en las urnas, también en las calles, cada vez que les convocamos. Los españoles son conscientes de lo que se está jugando en nuestro país y nosotros debemos serlo tanto o más que ellos. Conscientes de la responsabilidad histórica que tiene nuestro partido, pero sobre todo conscientes de la importancia del episodio de nuestra historia que estamos llamados a escribir. Porque hemos demostrado en las urnas que España clama por una forma de gobernar distinta a la de este Gobierno. Somos la única alternativa de todos los españoles que quieren otra forma de gobernar la nación. A todos esos ciudadanos quiero dirigirme para terminar. Sé que hay muchos españoles, la mayoría, que no se resignan que en nuestro país se subaste la igualdad, la libertad, los derechos y nuestra dignidad. Sé que hay una mayoría de españoles que quieren que la política deje de ser el problema crónico de este Gobierno. El Partido Popular va a ofrecer una respuesta a la altura de las circunstancias, la que nos corresponde como el primer partido de España. Los españoles deben de saber si el Partido Socialista se ha convertido en sinónimo de preocupación, el Partido Popular es sinónimo de esperanza. Es un enorme orgullo, hoy más que nunca, liderar el Partido Popular, que ya no es solamente el primer partido, como decía, sino el principal motor democrático de nuestro país. Esa es la buena noticia para los españoles. El partido que tiene más respaldo es también el que tiene un mayor compromiso institucional con España. Nosotros no traicionaremos nunca la confianza de los españoles. La honraremos hasta que tengamos la oportunidad de dárnosla de manera más amplia para que toda España pueda celebrar lo que ayer celebró Galicia. Nada más, muchísimas gracias, compañeros. Enhorabuena al presidente de la Junta, Alfonso Rueda. Muchas gracias.
trasladar a la gobernabilidad de una comunidad autónoma o a la oposición. Y pues cuando vas a la oposición hay que ejercer y hacer una oposición constructiva, una oposición responsable y que te dé además la posibilidad durante un tiempo, durante unos años, de seguir consolidando un proyecto que sea un proyecto ilusionante y que genere apoyo a la mayoría para las próximas elecciones autonómicas. Gracias.